Robin Vincent. James Craig has probably become more familiar to people in the last few years. He was Detroit's police chief from 2013 to 2021, and he accomplished a lot. He helped speed up police response times, increase department morale, and he implemented Project Greenlight for businesses to get police attention more quickly. But aside from being a police chief here and in Cincinnati and Portland, Maine, Craig is known for other things. He's known for his media appearances on Fox News. He's known for his support of President Donald Trump, and he's known for his failed attempts at becoming governor and a senator in our state. Now Craig is running to be mayor of Detroit. Come November, Detroit residents will decide who will lead the city into its next chapter. 9 candidates and a write-in say they have the path forward. So what is the former police chief putting forward himself? To discuss that now, we have James Craig with us. James, welcome to the Metro.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be here.
So first and foremost, why are you running for mayor?
Well, let me digress for a moment. You said a few things, failed attempts, certainly running for governor. It didn't work out quite well because of the signature issue. U.S. Senate, it didn't work out because I made a personal decision because for medical reasons at the time to not run. So I look at it as an opportunity. But running for mayor seems like a more natural move. When I was chief of police and deputy mayor, I was not going to run against my boss, Mike Duggan. He was doing a great job, and so there was no opportunity for that. But certainly when he decided not to seek another term, I evaluated, certainly got into the race late. And so what I like to remind folks is, when you judge a candidate, I'm running for mayor, what was my body of work? Certainly in the 3 cities I led as chief of police, and certainly the longest run here in Detroit, a successful track record. And I think going forward, given where the city is at, we want stability, we want leadership, we want transparency, and not to leave out integrity. Those are all critically important traits.
I want to talk about your time as Detroit's police chief specifically because that's a really tough job. You have to worry about things going wrong, about violence and harm happening to hundreds of thousands of people. And we know it is an especially tough job in Detroit. What lessons from that job prepared you to be mayor?
Well, let me start. As you recall, your listeners will know I came in at a time when the city was facing bankruptcy. It was a very unique time, very turbulent time, and of course, many in the community did not support emergency management. I came in, didn't report to any elected officials, so I was working primarily in an autonomous way, only reporting to the emergency manager. The beauty of that was to get do a lot of work that I probably couldn't have done having to go through the political rigors that you go through generally, especially as someone coming in new. And so, for example, I came in at a time, and you mentioned response times. I'll add in there the fact that the homicide clearance rate was one of the lowest in the country at 11%. The community had lost confidence in the police department. The police officers lost confidence in their leadership. Their morale was at the very bottom. So we had a recipe for disaster. And by the way, 10% of their pay was taken away. Likewise, the community on the other side had lost confidence. Their morale was down as well. So I knew I had a heavy lift going forward. And of course, the historic high crime. So humbly, I say that, I was able to come in, raise the morale. That was critically important. We built a new management team. We were under federal oversight for 13 years, probably the longest running consent judgment in the country, only exceeded by Oakland. But through leadership, we were able to get out from under federal oversight within 1 year. And so a lot of the processes that I adopted, the leadership, executive level leadership, not to mention, you kind of touched on it, a police chief has to be able to handle crisis. after crisis after crisis. Well, equally important is the mayor. The mayor has to be able to handle crisis. We've seen the recent uprisings in Los Angeles, for example, my old home, and then certainly the wildfires in L.A.
May I forgive me, James. I want to jump in for a moment and talk about Los Angeles before you move on to something else, because you recently voiced your support for President Trump deploying U.S. troops onto the streets of L.A., and there are questions about the lawfulness of that action. And we know Governor Gavin Newsom and Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass said they did not want that military presence. Most of the protests have actually been peaceful. What do you say to the people who say Trump is violating the law and needlessly escalating the situation there?
I disagree, and I'm unapologetic about it. Let me just say this. The mayor, the governor failed. They failed. My opinion, my professional judgment. And so, but let's
because
take it.
They allowed protests?
No.
To
I support
proliferate?
peaceful. No. Let me talk, please. I support peaceful protests. Lawlessness, burning vehicles, taking over city streets, that's not peaceful. When you're using weapons and throwing projectiles at police officers, that is not peaceful. That is a violation of the law. So when I say I'm unapologetic, I am. Now, let's add to that the fact that the mayor didn't respond timely, the governor didn't respond timely, and the police chief, who I know personally, said, we are overwhelmed. What's the translation of being overwhelmed? The translation is, we need help. Now, do I think the actions the president took was proper? Absolutely. If not taking those actions, so we let lawlessness continue, do we need to go back and talk about 2020? Do we need to talk about 2020?
Well, we do need to talk about 2020, I think, because I mean, you were police chief during the Black Lives Matter demonstrations, and during that time you were accused of using excessive force. That led to the city of Detroit paying, $1 million?
I disagree with the settlement.
To settle one moment. It led to the city of Detroit paying $1 million to settle a federal lawsuit with demonstrators. I want to just talk about what the complaint alleged, and that is that police officers reverted to brutal tactics to punish and abuse peaceful protesters. So are you saying that you don't regret how you treated demonstrators during that time?
Well, first of all, I disagree when you make a broad statement that the police officers were brutal. I'll remind you that by and large, the protests were peaceful. 100 plus days, they were peaceful. But there were days during the evening that the outside agitators who were present attacked our police officers, tried to loot stores, took over city streets. Absolutely, to sit there and say and suggest that the protests were peaceful, I was on the ground. Leaders are on the ground. I had a first view of what was going on, and I saw it. I saw the railroad spikes. I guess that would be deemed peaceful protest. Now, I will say, and my reputation as a police chief has always been transparency, because I'm in front of the camera. I'm talking to the community. There was one occasion where when a group of protesters were dispersed from the downtown area, that one officer unilaterally made a bad decision to deploy non-lethal shotgun rounds, ironically, to journalists. As soon as I found out about it, the officer was suspended. Not only was he suspended, he was terminated. And as my memory corrects, he was also charged with a crime. I was very transparent about that. But what I find interesting, we talk about these consistent, peaceful protests. Mm-hmm. Detroit can't breathe, and they won the lawsuit. Do you not recall when one of my officers, out as part of an investigative team to investigate a murder, an individual approached the officers in close proximity, fired 3 shots aimed at his head, fortunately missed. The response by Detroit police was they fired, disabling, and the suspect succumbed to his injuries. Now, that said, within minutes, maybe a half hour of the report of the shooting, Detroit will be converged on the scene, put out and narrated a video over social media. Basically, please don't interrupt me.
James, we're
Please.
running out of time.
Okay, well, I got to get my point. You want to tell me about peaceful protests, yet articulated a lie. And the lie was basically this: that Detroit police came up and assassinated an unarmed black man. And that action almost resulted in civil unrest in the city. So, again, peaceful protests.
Okay, well, I don't know that action reflects what we're talking about right now. And I can't speak specifically to what was said there or to that particular instance, but I think it is important for us to, I mean, you brought up the fact that that ironically a journalist was targeted by a police officer. It's actually not ironic when we think about the way that President Trump has been talking about journalists and the rise in violence against journalists, and that mostly has been at the hands of law enforcement. I wonder how you respond to that.
Well, I'll respond to it. I can't say for certain that the officer knew they were. Ironically, I should have said, well, they didn't know. I mean, they were employees of, I forget the news outlet, but that said, it wasn't until after the investigation was started, because I was called by a management member of their team who said, this happened, will you investigate? And of course I did. I brought the prosecutor in. We did it. We did it in a very transparent way. I in no way would justify that type of blatant disregard for safety of folks protesting. And these individuals were in the process of dispersing. Maybe they didn't move as fast, but it certainly did not warrant using that type of force. And I've always taken that stand. I've never justified excessive use of force.
In the last minute that we have here, I realize you've endorsed President Donald Trump. You've touted your relationship with him. Tell us why that relationship matters to your being the mayor in Detroit.
Well, I'll tell you primarily what matters about it. Let's be candid. You know, our city may be facing a financial shortfall. Arbor funds are running out next year. It's no secret that Mayor Duggan had a great working relationship with President Biden, and President Biden certainly put a lot of money into the city of Detroit. We need that. We need to have that kind of working relationship. It's no secret that a lot of the cities across America, the major cities, they don't have that kind of relationship. I will have that relationship. This is not about who's in the White House. It's not about me having been the former chief, now mayor. It's really about what can we do to keep Detroit moving forward.
Former Detroit Police Chief James Craig, thank you so much for joining us on the Metro.
Thank you.
The primary election is August 5th. The Metro will continue to bring you conversations with the candidates as the race progresses. We've previously spoken with 4 other candidates. To hear those conversations, go to WDET.org. Coming up on Saturday, an assassin allegedly killed a former Minnesota state lawmaker and her husband. In about 7 minutes, we'll discuss the rise of political violence in the U.S. and how we're all impacted by it. This is WDET-FM, Detroit Public Radio, your connection to news, music, and conversation. And this is the Metro. Stay with us.